Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Patterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
Anyway, I'm very happy to have both Marie Howe and Mark Doty back here for reading. They've read at the Poetry Center, both of them a number of times. They've both given workshops. They are extremely popular workshop leaders, and they're also extremely popular writers. And we are so pleased to present them to you again. Marie Howe is the author of 3 volumes of poetry: The Kingdom of Ordinary Time, The Good Thief, and What the Living Do, and is the co-editor of a book of essays in the company of my solitude, American Writing from the AIDS Pandemic. Stanley Kunitz selected Howe as a Lavin Younger Poets Prize for a Lavin Younger Poets Prize from the American Academy of Poets. She has in addition been a fellow at the Bunting Institute at Radcliffe College and a recipient of NEA and Guggenheim Fellowships. Her poems have appeared in The New Yorker, The Atlantic, Poetry, Agni, Plowshares, Harvard Review, and The Partisan Review, among others. Currently, Howe teaches creative writing at Sarah Lawrence College, Columbia, and New York University. In addition to that, let me say that Marie Howe has the ability to recreate a scene and a relationship and find just the right detail to reduce you to both laughter and tears. She is an amazing poet. Let's welcome Marie Howe.
Thanks, everybody. So good to be here. Can you all hear me? Maria Gillen is a light bearer of the First Order and a spiritual warrior. And you know, Mark and I were saying on the way here, she's just, you guys know this, but she's such an extraordinary force for life in this world, Maria. It's always such a privilege to be in the same room as you. I had a wonderful time with the group I was with today. And I want to thank them for their company. It was great. And I love to be with Mark. All the time, whenever, wherever. Wherever we go. Shall we start? As long as we do it together. Here's a poem called The Star Market. The people Jesus loved were shopping at the Star Market yesterday. An old lead-colored man standing next to me at the checkout breathed so heavily I had to step back a few steps. Even after his bags were packed, he still stood, breathing hard and hawking into his hand. The feeble, the lame, I could hardly look at them, shuffling through the aisles. They smelled of decay, as if the Star Market had declared a day off for the able-bodied, and I had wandered in with the rest of them. Sour milk, bad meat, looking for cereal and spring water. Jesus must have been a saint, I said to myself, looking for my lost car in the parking lot later, stumbling among the people who would have been lowered into rooms by ropes, who would have crept out of caves or crawled from the corners of public baths on their hands and knees, begging for mercy. If I touch only the hem of his garment, one woman thought, could I bear the look on his face when he wheels around? Do you all know that story? It's that great story about the woman who thinks, you know, if I just touch the hem of his garment, whoever, Buddha, Jesus, you know, Guru Mai, The Reverend Al Green has a great sermon about that. Has anyone ever seen that movie about the Reverend Al Green? Remember Al Green? Let's just stay together. Loving you ever. Well, get it from Netflix. The Reverend Al Green. It's a documentary about him. And he was one of those people who got, hit in the face with a plate of hot grits, and his life changed, He went from being an addict to being a preacher. And he has this amazing sermon about that moment when the woman touches the hem of Jesus' robe. And Jesus says, "Who touched me?" He turns around, "Who touched me?" But Al Green starts to sing, "Who touched me?" From the New Testament to the Greeks, reading Ovid. Has anyone read Ovid's tales here? Terrifying, wonderful transformations. The thing about those Greeks and Romans is that, at least mythologically, they could get mad. If the man broke your heart, if he fucked your sister speechless, then real true hell broke loose. You know that stew you just ate for dinner, honey? It was your son. That's Ovid for you. A guy who knows how to tell a story about people who really don't believe in the golden rule. Sometimes I fantasize saying to the man I married, "You know that hamburger you just gobbled down with relish and mustard? It was your truck." If only to watch understanding take his face like the swan god took the girl. But rage makes for more rage. Nothing to do then but run. And because rage is a story that has no ending, we'd both have to transform into birds or fish, constellations, forever fixed in the starry heavens, forever separated, forever attached. Remember the story of Athens and Sparta? That boy held a fox under his cloak and didn't flinch. A cab driver told me the part I couldn't remember this morning. In Sparta, he said, it was permissible to steal, but not to get caught. The fox bit and scratched. The kid didn't talk, and he was a hero. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, Jesus said. He said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And the spiked wheel plowed through the living centuries, minute by minute, soul by soul, plows still. That's the good news and the bad news, isn't it? Thank you. We were talking earlier about the difficulty of writing. It takes me a long time to finish a book of poems. So sometimes I write a lot and I throw about 90% of it out. And sometimes I can't write at all. And for the last year and a half, I've had a hard time. Well, I've just been waiting in sort of stumbly silence. I've been writing stuff, but it's been hard. So, this is for anybody in this room who might have that problem. This is called prayer. Every day I want to speak with you. And every day something more important calls for my attention. The drugstore, the beauty products, the luggage I need to buy for the trip. Even now, I can hardly sit here among the falling piles of paper and clothing, the garbage trucks outside already screeching and banging. The mystics say, you are as close as my own breath. Why do I flee from you? My days and nights pour through me like complaints and become a story I forgot to tell. Help me. Even as I write these words, I am planning to rise from the chair as soon as I finish this sentence. Thank you. Well, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and the oil spill. Mark told me this morning, you know whose oil well that is? Do you guys know? Sorry? British Petroleum? Guess who it's operated by, though? Halliburton.
We meet again.
We meet again. We meet again. So we're in this dilemma, you know, as we all know, like how do you live in this world in a moral way, you know, especially being an American, because so much of what we do is watch, you know, unless we actively go to Afghanistan or Iraq or Iran or work somewhere, you know, directly helping. I feel like I watch. I'm a voyeur. I pay for it too, my taxes, which were very high this year, I have to say. So here's a poem called What We Would Give Up. One morning in Orlando, Florida, I asked a group of college students, what would we be willing to give up to equalize the wealth in this world? Malls, a red-haired young woman said right away. Supermarkets, the young man in a black t-shirt said, where you go to buy bread and there's 150 loaves on the shelf. Imported fruit, the young woman sitting next to him said, raspberries in winter. A car, the guy with a nose ring said, I don't have a car anyway. Travel, jet fuel, well, we'd all be together, someone said. TV, said the guy without a car. I don't watch TV anyway. What about coffee, I said, looking down at my double tall half-calf soy latte. Okay, everybody said, but I wondered about that one. 10 pairs of shoes? Yes. Movies? Maybe. That week, my phone was out of order. When the company tried to connect my line to a split line that would allow me fast cable access to the internet, everything went dead. When I called the phone company, I was put on hold and had to listen to a tinny version of Vivaldi's Four Seasons, pitched at what seemed a much faster than usual speed. This call may be monitored. I was told to punch my number in 5 times during that first phone call, and every time I was transferred to a person who asked me for my phone number again. 8 calls the first day. We'll send a technician out, the central office would say. The technician, when he arrived, would say, the problem is in the central office. When I called the central office, someone would say, we have to send a technician out. When I said a technician has already been here, the central office person would say, all I can do is put in an order, ma'am. Vivaldi. After 7 days, I began to suspect that at the center of the central office is a room empty of furniture but a table. On the table, a ringing telephone. Somewhere way down a long corridor, one guy in a broken chair in front of an empty desk. And every once in a while, he cranes his neck toward a door and yells to no one in particular. Is anyone going to answer that? If you don't want music, the phone company says, please hold through the silence. When I came home from Orlando, the phone started working again. The Gap, someone said. Everybody said, I don't go to the Gap. Would I give up the telephone? Would I give up hot water? Would I give up makeup? Would I give up dyeing my hair? That was a hard one. If I stopped dyeing my hair, everyone would know that my golden brown hair is actually gray. and my long American youth would be over. And then what? Thank you. Now you know. This is government. If the kingdom of heaven is within us, what do we do? I don't know. Government. Standing next to my old friend, I sense that his soldiers have retreated. And mine, they're resting their guns on their shoulders, talking quietly. I'm hungry, one says. Cheeseburger, says another. And they all decide to go and find some dinner. But the next day, negotiating the two narrow aisles of the Health and Harmony food store, when I say, "Excuse me," to the woman and her cart of organic chicken and green grapes, she pulls her cart not quite far back enough for me to pass. And a small mob in me begins picking up the fruit to throw. So many kingdoms, and in each kingdom, so many people. The disinherited son, the corrupt counselor, the courtesan, the fool, and so many gods arguing among themselves over toast through the lunch salad and on into the long hours of the mild spring afternoon. I'm the god. No, I'm the god. No, I'm the god. I can hardly hear myself over their muttering. How can I discipline my army? They're exhausted and want more money. How can I disarm when my enemy seems so intent? Thank you. I want to read I haven't read this in a long time. This is a poem called "The Spell," and it's in memory of Elise Asher. Elise was married to Stanley Kunitz. Anybody here know Elise? Somebody? She's an extraordinary woman, just an extraordinary artist, and truly one of the most original people I've ever known. One time when she was quite old, we were both sort of lying around their house, both of us on her bed, and we were talking about our favorite flowers. And I said, "I love lilies of the valley." She said, "Oh yeah, me too. Lilies of the valley. It's not as if they're waiting for anything." Elise talked like that all the time. You know, just like, you're right, they're not, it's true, they don't seem to be waiting for anything. I was in Houston, Texas when she died, and I was there. No, I was in Austin, Texas, and with my daughter, who was 4 years old at the time. So, the spell. Our 4-year-old neighbor, Pablo, has lost his wand, and so he tries to cast spells with his finger, which doesn't seem to work as well. Then he brings handfuls of dimes and nickels to the couch where I'm sitting, and when I say, "Give me some money," he says no, laughing. "Give me some money," I say, and he says no. Then he draws on a piece of paper a circle with a 10 inside, the word no, an unhappy mouth and eyes, and gives that to me. Why not ask the wand to find itself? "No," he says, shaking his head slowly. "Why not make a spell that will find it?" "No," he says, "that won't work." "What about this stick?" his mother says, holding up a chopstick. "No," says Pablo, who knows the difference between what is secular and what is sacred. Every day when I pick up my 4-year-old daughter from preschool, she climbs into her back booster seat and says, "Mom, tell me your story." And almost every day I tell her, I dropped you off, I taught my class, I ate a tuna fish sandwich, wrote emails, returned phone calls, talked with students, and then I came to pick you up. And almost every day I think, my God, is that what I did? Yesterday she climbed into the back seat and said, Mom, tell me your story. And I did what I always did. I said, I dropped you off, taught my class, had lunch, returned emails, talked with students. And she said, no, Mom, tell me the whole thing. And I said, okay, I feel a little sad. And she said, tell me the whole thing, Mom. And I said, okay, Elise died. Elise is dead, and the world feels weary and brokenhearted. And she said, tell me the whole thing, Mom. And I said, in the dream last night, I felt my life building up around me, and when I stepped forward and away from it and turned around, I saw a high and frozen crested wave. And she said, the whole thing, Mom. Then I thought of the other dream. I said, when a goose landed on my head, but when I untangled it from my hair, I saw it wasn't a goose, but a winged serpent writhing up into the sky like a disappearing bee. And she said, tell me the whole story. And I said, Elise is dead, and all the frozen tears are mine, of course. And if that wave broke, it might wash my life clear, and I might begin again from now and from here. And I looked into the rearview mirror. She was looking sideways out the window to the right, where they say the unlived life is. Okay, I said. And she said, okay, still looking in that direction. I really, I wanted to read a lot of the bad things I've been writing, and I copied them in my early morning, trying to get here, left them in the printer tray. But I'm going to try to read something that's not even, it's not even the right version, but just for the sake of it. I had to go to, I didn't have to go, I wasn't forced to go. I was invited to go to Seattle to read someplace, and they gave us a theme, dreaded theme. And the theme was road trip. So I couldn't write to it. But the very night before I went to this thing, I was supposed to read about a road trip. I just did what I always do, which is when I can't write, I put the pen in my undominant hand and I just write anything. And this is what came out. And not only that, but it got a little bit better than this, but here it is. It's for my daughter. It's for Inan, the hero of the last poem. When my K-turn hit the curb of the old neighborhood, when I circled the wide streets, parallel parking, and failed the first test and failed the second test. When our father drove the winding mountain roads drunk, sliding and drifting around the curves, and the little kids cried quietly in the back seat, holding onto my hands. In my boyfriend's blue Chevy, learning how to kiss. In the professor's Volkswagen, stinking of pipe smoke, when he drove me to that cabin, frightened, and brought me back changed. In the back seat of the old station wagon, bored and dreamy, watching the moon follow. In the blue Skylark convertible with the white bucket seats. In the yellow Thunderbird convertible our father let me drive if I remembered to bring back the keys. In the red Oldsmobile, so dark winter mornings, only the milking barns were lit. On the way to the cemetery, in the back of the limousine, running over the already dead raccoon, applying mascara at the red lights. When we climbed back in, still wet from the quarry, when I staggered out drunk on kisses, wearing his ring, when the car wouldn't start, when the heater broke, When I waited in the car to hear the rest of the song, when I drove crying so hard I had to pull over, the fields in late summer and the little clump of cows chewing. Through the mud season, when I rocked and jumped on the fender and the wheels grabbed and splattered, when I kissed him goodbye and pulled him back into the back seat, when we sat in the parking lot until the medicine kicked in, when I panicked on the bridge and slowed to a stop and the beeping cars swirled around us like water around a stone, I only seemed to be still, throwing the cigarette out the window, burning my tongue on the tea, spilling the tuna fish sandwich on my lap as I downshifted. When the policeman waved me down, the wipers slapping. When I sat alone in the car, leaning on the steering wheel, gazing through the front window glass. When I thought I was lost, I wasn't. When I thought I had made so many wrong turns, I didn't. Every car I ever stepped into was bringing me to you. And I'll finish with this one. It's called Hurry. We stop at the dry cleaners and the grocery store and the gas station and the green market. And hurry up, honey, I say, hurry, hurry. As she runs along 2 or 3 steps behind me, her blue jacket unzipped and her socks rolled down. Where do I want her to hurry to? To her grave? To mine? Where one day she might stand all grown. Today, when all the errands are finally done, I say to her, honey, I'm sorry I keep saying hurry. You walk ahead of me. You be the mother. And hurry up, she says over her shoulder, laughing. Hurry up now, darling, she says. Hurry, hurry, taking the house keys from my hands. Thank you.